Hi, my name is Dr. Zhana Vrangalova. I'm a sex and relationships researcher, consultant, professor of human sexuality at New York University. And I'm here to talk about some clips from Sex and the City and the relationships that we see in it. First clip.
Big arrived on the 9 p.m. flight. I was at his door by 10 to welcome him home in style.
Bonjour! Voilà le French hat, voilà le French pie.
This clip is really emblematic of their entire relationship in all of those early years where you see this push and pull, right? On one hand, there is a very strong connection, chemistry, passion, whatever you want to call it, that je ne sais quoi that really binds them together, and they're both drawn to each other in a very strong way. But at the same time, Big is not really available, not fully available. Even though he keeps coming back, he's always, you can feel that 1 foot in, 1 foot out. There's a very strong independence streak in him. He has his walls up in many ways. Even when he expresses love and interest, it's still, he's leaving. He is not really inviting her to come with. He is not really inviting her in any way that is about us, right? Even if he's okay with her joining, it needs to be for her own benefit and so on. So there is that lack of willingness to show commitment and give Carrie a little more security and safety in what this relationship can be and will be going forward. And she's not very happy about it, as we can see here. It's quite a bit of a reaction that then leads into some of these other dynamics that we often see in couples where her reaction is very intense. He then shuts down, basically says, I don't want to talk about it anymore, which is a version of stonewalling to some extent and defensiveness. And that is just walls, more walls that ends things there. Doesn't end the connection, doesn't end the excitement and love and passion that exists between them, but there's clearly something there that she's not getting. And this is something that we often see in a lot of shows, I feel. It's probably good to create drama because it looks good and it's a lot of intense emotions that we often see exploited both in scripted TV and in reality TV, right? We like to see these very extreme reactions that might look good on camera and create drama and move the plot forward, but they're usually not the most effective way to have these conversations, to create the environment in the moment that facilitates an actual solution or resolution to the problem. But we definitely see a lot of that from all the girls in Sex and the City.
These steps are very dangerous.
Oh my God. Such a funny scene. Well, this is another example of what people should not do. How not to have lunch and make a scene in a restaurant. So please use this as a what not to do in life and not model it. What we see here is the age-old, timeless problem that a lot of us have. What do we do with exes? Can we be friends with an ex? And what does that mean? What does that look like? What kinds of things can we and can't we talk about? And in this case, and the answer is we certainly can be friends with exes, but it really depends. It depends on how things ended. It depends on how we still feel about them, how they feel about us. And in this particular case, we have a case when at least one of the parties doesn't actually want to be just friends and still holds on to emotions. There's a lot of unresolved and baggage, if you will, that she still carries around it. I mean, he does too, but it's masked at this point because he's dating someone else and he is in fact committed now to someone else. And so she tries to create this friendship when she's not really ready for it. And then she wades into territory that she's really not ready to hear about, right? Sometimes we can have some of these maybe more superficial friendships with exes where there's still emotions left over, but you can't really be talking about the relationship that they're having with other people. And so she really pokes the bear, and she's not ready for it and has a complete meltdown when she's confronted with the reality that she's really not ready to hear, because again, it goes back to the wound that she was left with in this relationship, which is she thought they were so perfect together. He seemed to also think that in many occasions, and yet he was not able to commit to her and give her that long-term security and commitment. And now he is clearly ready to offer it to someone else. And it's much easier to make sense of someone who you really wanted that commitment from if you feel like, okay, this is something that he cannot give or they cannot give to anybody. They're done with making those kinds of commitments. But then when you realize that actually, no, they are ready to do it with somebody else, but for some reason not you. And there's also that big question mark of, okay, why not me? You know, why her? What does she have that I didn't have that is allowing him to make that step with her, but not with me? So it's a very emotionally distressing situation and moment that she's experiencing. So again, it's not surprising, that very extreme reaction. But it was certainly avoidable. And it's a good lesson to not ask questions that you're not ready to hear answers to.
Why her?
One word. Hubble.
Hubble. Oh my God. Hubble. It is so Hubble. I have a question for you. Why wasn't it me?
Carrie.
No, seriously. I really need to hear you say it. Come on, be a friend.
I don't know. It just got so hard. And she's...
Yeah.
Here we see Carrie and her friends doing something that many of us tend to do when we are in a situation that leaves us without proper closure, right? When we don't exactly know what's going on and trying to make sense of a situation. Why wasn't it me and why was it this other woman? And they come up with, you know, some potential explanation for what that is, which may or may not be true, that Carrie is just too complicated and too difficult in some way, and that the woman he is marrying, Natasha, is just simpler. And that could be the explanation, but we actually never find out. She asks Big that question, but we don't get an answer. It was just too hard. That could mean a million different things. And he never finishes his sentence about what this other woman is like. We're still left with a big question mark with some hypotheses that we have, but are never confirmed. And we get so little insight into how Big thinks and why he's doing the things he's doing. Why is he not committing to Carrie? Why is he choosing this other woman? We learn very little about this woman. Is she more simple? Maybe, we don't know. And is Carrie really more complicated? What's so hard about her? So yeah, it could be any of those things. It could be other things. We, again, have very little insight into Big's psychology.
Couldn't it be like the wood? And that's my flaw, and you're the other wood, and that makes us stronger.
It's not that simple, Carrie.
Why people cheat is a very, very big question, and there's no one answer to it. Different people have different motivations, and we've studied this, and you do see that diversity of motives. There are a few big ones. One is people just want something new and different. A lot of us have a high need for variety and novelty, and especially after we've been with one person for a long period of time, we want something different. So that's a big, big chunk of infidelities. That doesn't at all have to go with like not being happy in your relationship. That's not always the case. And then there's that other big portion of infidelities that are driven by feeling like you're not really getting a lot of your sexual and or emotional needs met in your relationship. So there's some level of dissatisfaction and neglect that you feel from the partner, and that pushes you in the arms of someone else. And in this case, it's not really either one of those things. This is much more about unfinished business that she has with this particular person, and the fact that she actually seems to prefer, the person she's cheating with over the person that she's with as a long-term partner. So that person is always going to have a very special pull that is hard to resist.
Carrie, wait, I'm sorry. Carrie,
This one is a hard one to comment on from a realistic perspective because I feel like it's not very realistic. What is realistic certainly is the cold feet that Big has in the moment that a lot of people have had right before their wedding, and it's very consistent with his fear around commitment, especially commitment to this particular woman. So that's to be expected. And then you have all of that drama of him coming back in the one-way street and they're going away, and then the confrontation feels a little more extreme, or a lot more extreme than one might expect in real life. Certainly there's a big element of humiliation, and you can understand that she's not ecstatic about what just happened, but to then actually be the one to prevent the wedding from going forward is a bit too much. To not have any level of understanding that, okay, cold feet can happen, especially given who this person is, but now he's back, he's here, he's ready to do it. And it's a little unfortunate. And then there's an entire movie where the viewer has to deal with her mourning a relationship, which we know is going to end up happening anyway. Yeah, I mean, she says, right, I knew you would do this, which it's understandable for her. Again, she's trying to make sense of what just happened. Her biggest fear in some way is coming true. I mean, any bride's biggest fear, I guess, is to be left at the altar. And it's a very emotionally charged situation. So, of course, she's trying to make some sense of it. She is tapping into something that has been happening to her, actually, with this person who was always 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And she did feel like she was left, if not at the actual altar, but many times before. So it is certainly a repeat of a pattern that she is tapping into. That's not surprising at all. But it also shows a level of lack of flexibility and understanding and grace about why and how someone might feel that way. That is not so uncommon. And to give people a chance. He's still there, still shows up, and he is Mr. Big after all. I mean, what she knew it was possible. I would have loved to see that movie play out differently. I would have loved to see her, of course, being mad and everything, but then giving him the grace and understanding that that's possible, and being happy that he is actually coming back and going through with it as planned. And then the movie was about something else afterwards and how they navigate these early days. But that's what we got.
Are you not even going to be thinking about me?
Of course. I've been thinking of nothing but you for all these years.
This is another one of those scenes that feel a lot more like something that would happen in a movie than in real life. On one hand, it's perfectly understandable that a parent who feels like their child is in some sort of crisis and they need them, that they would want to prioritize, right, being there for their kid. On the other hand, it doesn't require you to not have any kind of romantic relationship during that time. There are plenty of people out there who are in a romantic relationship because they're still with the spouse, right, with whom they've had that kid, or they are maintaining a relationship with someone else. So it's certainly possible to have both, to be both a parent to a troubled kid and to be in a relationship with someone. So it feels unnecessary, a very extreme reaction of all or nothing. It's like, okay, if you're gonna be there for the kid, you're not gonna be there 24/7. You're not gonna be joined at the hip at every single moment. It's certainly possible to make it work. And sure, it may not be as intense and as spending as much time and going back and forth, right, as initially planned, but there's certainly a way to make it work. And to be like, yeah, in 5 years, and they're gonna go like this. Really? You're gonna sacrifice 5 years of your lives at an age when, right, people are getting older? I mean, her current husband just died of a heart attack. Anything can happen. 5 years is not nothing, and it just doesn't feel very realistic and also necessary. And again, what is it modeling? Like, are you saying this is the way to go about things, that it's all or nothing, that you can either be a parent or you can be in a relationship? So I wasn't happy to see it end like that. I just felt it was really unnecessary when they clearly finally had something good going, because even though Aidan didn't feel like the right one for her the first time around when they were younger, he certainly feels right for her right now. She is very excited to be with him. She's very much into him. Whatever was holding her back then, aka Mr. Big, is no longer there, and they clearly have a very high quality, deep connection. And so to throw that away like that, I don't know. Why? The answer is both. Mr. Big was the right choice for her when they were younger, and Aidan is the right choice for her now. Because of the kind of connection that she had with Mr. Big and the fact that she could not let that go, even when she had this other man who was so available, so there, so willing to commit and have the kind of life that she thought she wanted to have and wanted to have with someone, but she really wanted it with Big. And they had a good thing going. And finally, as he overcame that fear of commitment, sounds like they did have a pretty decent marriage. So when we see them for a brief moment, right, in that first half before he dies, it does seem like they had a pretty good marriage, right? Her friends say that they were the happiest couple that they knew. And there's a level of playfulness in their connection that still feels like it's remained even after all of those years that they've had together, which shows you it was a good match. Well, the advice for people, I mean, it's hard to give advice that's universal, that's going to be true of everyone. And I want people to remember that this is scripted TV. Right? This is not real life. As much as we might resonate and relate in various ways with these characters, this is a fictional story. And in reality, we do make these trade-offs very often. And finding that ideal combo of those two things, of that long-term commitment, stability, security, safety, and the excitement, passion, mystery, novelty, and all of that, it's not always possible. So it really depends on what your situation is, what your options are, what you're bringing to the table, what your needs are. Some of us have a lot more of that need for very, very secure security, and others are okay with things being a little more kind of fluid and flexible. Some of us need a lot more of that excitement and passion. Other people need a lot less. And so it really is about knowing yourself and what is really important to you, and making sure that you're not compromising on some of those core needs. But some trade-offs are always going to be made. So it's hard to say, well, it worked out for her, so don't settle for anything less than 100% of everything that you want to get, because you're not going to get 100% of everything you want to get. So think about what are some of those absolute core needs that should not be compromised. on and that you really need to get from that partner, from that relationship? And what are some other things that are more, preferences that can be compromised, or that can be some needs that can be outsourced from other people, from friends, family? In many cases, if people are open to open relationships, maybe other partners as well. And, you get to a situation where, 70-ish, 80-ish% of your needs are being met, and the rest gets compromised on or gotten from other sources.